Sorry.
And funding changes, and
Well, yeah,
people lose funding, then new services pop up and old ones go.
yeah, exactly. And because of that, or because of the way you're commissioned, what you do sometimes changes as well, or what you
Yeah.
can and can't do. Yeah, so it's quite complicated. And for people who've just worked in sort of perhaps a local authority or in health in one service, they perhaps don't understand some of those complexities either, and they
Yeah.
don't, you know. So where you could do one thing one day, you're not going to do it the next day because you're not going to be paid for doing that the next day. And
Yeah.
then that thing, people think, oh, that seems a bit strange, but that's how it works, isn't it? That's how the funding and commissioning impacts on people. So
It does. It does. You get used to it, don't you, when you work in it?
You do.
Yeah, you do.
We do.
We do, yeah. We'll wonder what'll happen next year.
I'd just say Daria is the force behind this sort of idea of having networking sessions. So she's done a lot of the work on this. I can't take the credit for that. So yeah, it's been really helpful.
So what do you do, Daria?
I support in a project basis the delivery of the training, and also do the marketing and the advertisement and the tweeting and supporting the developed training, whereas Liz actually develops it and creates the whole program curriculum for us.
Yeah. Yeah. You get the idea and Liz has to do it. Is that how it is? Or is it the other way around?
Yeah. Sorry, my English. I'm obviously not from England, so sometimes there are some mistakes about the way I.
No, it might have been me not listening.
How it happens is obviously we are Liz is invited to serious case review groups, whereas there are some learnings from the case reviews, and then there are some priorities for our training to be around, and then Liz derives a program, and she creates some of the training, and she outsources some of the training. At that level, I come into effect of helping the setting up of the training the attendees, the advertising of the events, getting to the people. That's how we work.
Yeah. And what about Zoe? Zoe Hill.
I'm from the LGBT Centre in Leicester, so I'm a partnership development manager here.
Yeah. Okay. And that's it for now, isn't it? We've got Laura Upton.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Laura. I'm not stopping long. Sorry, I've just popped in.
Just popped in to say hello.
Laura is the vice chair for our multi-agency learning and development group. So here you go.
I'm also workforce improvement advisor for early years at Leicestershire County Council. So I support the sector with CPD training, recruitment and retention, and qualifications.
Okay.
Wow, they certainly keep you busy, Laura.
Yeah, I'm also the chair of the apprenticeship trailblazer group for the level 5 early years lead practitioner and the level 6 pedagogical lead, which we haven't yet got through, but I'm still very hopeful.
I didn't even know that, Laura. That sounds very fancy.
Yeah, it's good to be in a networking session, isn't it?
Laura's been thrust into the limelight because our current chair has been unwell for a while, so she's had to step up and do a lot of chairing roles, which she's done. She's excelled. Thank you.
I was missold.
Yeah, you won't have to do anything.
So who are we waiting for then, Sean? You're waiting for people to just join and then
Yeah, I think Sean is going to start with the presentation, and then she could perhaps tell us how you all are linked in, how you work, and then
Yeah.
in the order that you determine, if you could present yours, and then we could share with all of the rest of the attendees on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you. My name's Sean. I am a service manager at Women's Aid in Leicestershire. So we are a member of National Women's Aid, and our sort of central core message is around supporting victims of domestic abuse. Within the Leicestershire and Rutland area, we do that in two main streams. So we have a number of refuge provisions, both your traditional refuges where you've got sort of communal living, you've got support workers on site daily, shared kitchens, etc. And then we've also got the more multi-purpose refuge accommodation, which we refer to as dispersed accommodation. So this would be accommodation units across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, there to provide things like, you know, if you've got a large family that have a dog and need a garden, potentially they're not going to fit well into a multi-occupancy property, but a house or a flat with those facilities. So that's one stream of the work of Women's Aid. And then the other stream, which sits with me, is high-risk domestic abuse services. So we are the commissioned high-risk domestic abuse support service with our IDVA service. We provide IDVAs and facilitate the MARAC from the IDVA perspective. So for those that don't know what an IDVA is, it's an independent domestic violence advisor. So that is our support worker that would work with any client that is identified at high risk of serious domestic abuse. And we work multi-agency in those roles. I've brought 3 colleagues along today, and those 3 colleagues all work in services that sit outside of that support. So these are specialist services that are targeted around certain disproportionately supported groups. So I'm going to come round to those 3, and then if anybody's got any questions, it might be great to do that afterwards and throw them to any of us. I'm going to ask Jane to speak first. Jane is one of our hospital IDVAs. So she does work with high risk individuals, but she's actually in a hospital based environment over at the LRI. So Jane, would you like to say if you're we can't hear you though at the moment. Is your mic not working? No, we can't hear you. I can try lip reading. Should we come back to you, Jane? Yeah, we'll come back. We'll go the other way. Helen, I can
Perhaps
see.
log out and log in, Jane. Sorry, it might be better to log out and log in.
We'll come back to Jane when her microphone's working. We've got Helen on the line. So Helen is our practitioner for the Adam Project, and the Adam Project recently launched. I'm sure Helen will be able to tell you all about it. Recently launched, but it is a male victims project to work with male domestic abuse victims. Helen, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, hi, so hello everybody. Yeah, my name's Helen. I'm the practitioner for the Adam Project, also covering the whole of the LLR. And so my role will be to pick up, so I've got referrals that come straight into me. They can come through the helpline, but they also come straight into me. And then if they're going to be high risk, then I would refer out to the IDVA team so that then they can do the MARAC referrals. And then after that, I would then pick up more or less the outreach support and support. So like today, for instance, one of the guys has come off the IDVA has come off the IDVA team work, and so I'm going to pick it up to then be able to sort out housing and general well-being and welfare. So sorry, sorry, my son's just about to walk through, sorry. So yeah, so I do not so much counselling, but trying to encourage men into healthy relationships, and also help them recognise that what they've been through is abuse, because often it's missed and overlooked, and by the time a male comes forward, it's normally pretty bad. And then I'm hopefully going to be in the process of trying to write a male version of the Freedom Programme to encourage men to have better understanding of healthy relationships and what is and what isn't abusive behaviour. I think that's what I do, Sean. Is it?
Sounds good, Helen. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much, Helen. Jane, is your microphone working yet?
No.
Not. No. Oh, you'd have to have my voice then, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. So as I said, Jane is one of our hospital IDVAs. She works out of predominantly out of the LRI, working in the ED unit. So any individual that is brought into hospital, it can be through the emergency department, which is predominantly where the clients come through, that is identified as potentially a victim of domestic abuse. They are then referred to the IDVA. So the IDVA will go and see them in hospital. They'll meet them, they'll talk to them about their situation, they'll see, you know, what their support is, and then they'll start planning that support plan for the client that's in hospital. Is it safe for them to go home? Do they need to go into refuge, for example? And that's what the hospital IDVAs will be doing. They'll be working with the safeguarding teams of the hospital, which I know you've had a couple of speakers throughout the festival so far from the safeguarding team. So they're working sort of alongside them around the domestic abuse support and feeding clients into the mainstream commissioned domestic abuse services to make sure that they're, you know, they're not missed. So it's a really joined up approach to bringing the client and supporting them at their point of crisis at hospital, all the way through till they've got a named support worker that's going to support them over the next sort of 2-3 months or so, or longer if it needs to be that way. So that's kind of the hospital service. As I said, based at the LRI, however, we'll cover all 3 of the hospitals within the trust. And we'll be working with things like maternity units, so working with the midwives, where there's potential domestic abuse identified in a relationship, they can be working with the individuals to recognise that and to put things in place prior to pregnancy and after, once they've got the baby. And we think this is a really, really important position, because we know that a woman who is pregnant is 3 times more likely to be assaulted or abused by an abusive partner than a woman that's not pregnant. So really, really key time for women, and putting that support into that maternity service as well is really sort of really beneficial, really positive step that Jane and her colleague Fahima are leading on. So really positive. That's what you do, isn't it, Jane? Yeah, lovely. Lisa is from the Free From Fear, which is a stalking and harassment service that again sits under the umbrella of the Women's Aid high risk services, but her work is all around stalking and harassment, and she's going to talk to you about that for a few minutes. We know her microphone works.
My microphone always works, doesn't it? Sorry. Right. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. So I run the Isaac service. I'm the full-time worker. I do have a part-time worker with me as well. I've been doing this since December 2019. I was previously in refuge for 4 years. I support all victims of stalking, stroke harassment, age 13 plus, doesn't have to be domestic abuse related, male and female, Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. Okay, so there's 1.5 of us. And we can work with clients whether they be low, medium or high risk. So we can do MARACs if we feel that, you know, we work in a similar way to the IDVAs, but we specialise in the stalking and harassment side of it. So, for instance, if there's a medium risk dash, and then we do our screening for stalking and harassment, and it's high, we will have a word with Sian. You know, the risks in stalking and harassment can be different, and we might put that through to MARAC, but we put high risk stuff through to MARAC. Our referrals they can come in from the police. We don't get that many from the police, but I have had some. They can come in from UAVA helpline. They can come in from victim support, Project 360, the outreach team, the IDVA team, the MARAC, to IDVA, to Isaac. They can come in from anywhere, and we phone up, do the assessment, do the risk assessment, obviously look at immediate risk, safeguarding, keeping the house secure, giving them the advice that they need for police reporting, going to the police station with them, because sometimes they need that, and supporting them in court as well, and explaining the criminal justice process. And if they need any other support, like housing, we can support there as well. And it really very much is client-led on what they need, as long as it falls, you know, within reasonable stuff. We don't go Tesco and get the shopping for them, but we do. For instance, I've got a client whose account has been compromised by Microsoft. Police may not do anything about it because they can't prove who the perpetrator is, even though she thinks she knows who he is. So I am trying to work out how on earth I can find out who's done that without going to the police, because sometimes with stalking victims, they need you to give them the evidence. The police do. There's a lot of investigation you have to do yourself. So, and we're developing as a service. So since I got my other worker, we're trying our best to do networking, work with the police, the CPS, get ourselves known out there. Anything else I do, Sian?
I think that's a good round picture.
Yeah.
We keep you very busy, don't we?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Lisa. So that's our sort of 3 specialist services across the high risk services, from sitting under the banner of Women's Aid. Has anybody got any questions about those or the wider Women's Aid work that the guys can answer for you whilst you're here?
So I wondered, you know, if you're working in the hospital, do you find that you get a better response from I'm wondering if people are more fearful once they're in hospital, either because they've been injured or because they're pregnant, either way. Do you get more engagement at that point, or doesn't it really make any difference? Just sort of an interest, really.
You do get a little bit more engagement, and often it's because they feel they're in a safe setting.
Yeah.
So we talk to our clients, and a victim of domestic abuse will only disclose things when they feel safe. If they don't feel safe, as much as you can say you're in a safe place, that they're not safe at that point to share. So we do find that they're quite open with us in a hospital environment. Often it's because the perpetrator, especially with COVID, wasn't allowed in the hospital with them. So they had that first time where they have not got their shadow stood here telling them what to say or feeding into them, or, you know, making sure they're saying the right things. And that was really, really positive. And working with the hospital, you know, if a victim is identified, often they'll be maybe put into, if there's available space, maybe put into one of their private pods, so they can have a very private, confidential conversation with a HIDVA, rather than onto a big open ward where there's 10 people around and the perpetrator is still there. So we do get better engagement as and when, you know, they feel comfortable. But we also know, across the board that any client that is reporting domestic abuse has probably experienced 30 to 50 incidents before they report. So they might be very open, but they might then go home to that perpetrator. Or this might be that turning moment, and that HIDVA is the one that is going to support them in that turning moment of them not having to go home. But yeah, we get very good engagement within the hospital environment. And I can only put that down to the safety, the feeling safe in that environment with the professionals around.
Yeah, I think people do feel safe with health professionals, don't they? We see that in other areas of sort of safeguarding work, that health is seen as the nice sort of, well, because they're healing, and whereas sort of police and even social work's seen as far more hostile than health, I think. So yeah, that's so it's really useful to have people there in that position then, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really useful to have them on site to be able to sort of, and even if they're not on site, so they might work, at a different site, they can be called by the medical professionals, and just having that resource in the hospital, it really helps the hospital when they're, especially we know they're very busy at the moment, but it also helps the individual because they get that specialist support straight away and not have to wait for a referral into a service or anything like that. There's somebody on site there to talk to them. So yeah, really, really positive.
And then I had one more question, which was about the Adam project. Do you find that men are the perpetrators of violence against men are women or men, or is it a mix?
Predominantly women.
Right.
Occasionally men, and occasionally family.
Right.
So in my caseload at the moment, I've got 2 that are honour based, 1 male, and the rest are female perps.
And
really interesting.
For our area, that actually goes against the national picture as well, which is really interesting, because we do see mostly female perpetrators with male victims. But sort of when you look at the national picture, the male perpetrator is predominantly male still.
Yeah.
So nationally, you would have sort of 50-50 male and female perpetrators for a male victim. But I think for females victim, it's like 90%. So that percentage tips it. But actually, we're seeing of the clients coming through to service that we're seeing mostly female perpetrators, which is really interesting actually. And so we'll be monitoring that over sort of the 12 months that we've got of the funding project to see, whether that balances out a little bit over the year, or if that's actually the sort of the position of Leicester and Rutland.
Thank you. That is really interesting. I would have assumed it would have been different. So that's why I was asking really, was it my assumption or,
Yeah. And you don't tend to think of honour-based violence being against males either.
No, you're right.
Yeah. And one of the cases, it's the mum that is the perpetrator. And it's a difficult case to deal with, especially when you're reading a letter that she's actually written saying, I don't want you, move out, and to him and his brother. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of alcohol and mental health issues as well, but it is quite disturbing when you're talking to him and he's very distressed by it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Daria, your hands up.
Yes. I would like to actually understand where does the children's safeguarding issues might arise here, and what if you have any specific problems there, or if you have any specific solutions that you would like to share with us. Do you have any training with regards to that?
Where the children's safeguarding fits in across all of our services, if we identify there are children within a domestic abuse household, then we would make contact with the children's services team to see if they're known. If the children have witnessed the abuse, then we would be making obviously a referral in there. If there's any concern about the risk to the children, that would obviously come over as a full referral. So we do find that our workers, you know, in the same way we have a very close sort of working relationship with adult social services as well, we have that with the children's social services. Issues, I suppose the only thing is contact, and I think I saw notes on this on a previous session from yesterday, maybe from the festival. It's very, very difficult to make contact. So we allocate an IDVA, and then we'll give that IDVA's phone number out to all the workers, but you don't always know who the social worker is or who the worker is and what their contact details is. So we spend a lot of time on a duty phone line finding out. Once we've got that information, we've got over that sort of gate, but that we do spend a lot of time on to adult social services as well, and waiting for somebody to tell us, and then we get the message, we can't give you any information on the phone, but the worker will give you a call. We're like, oh, okay. You know, is there a time frame and things like that? And I think that's the same across a lot of organisations, I think. So that's probably the only thing I think where we want to try and build that.
Relationships.
Yeah, build relationships there, so that we know what's there, and it's that's probably our only. I think guys will sort of they're nodding as I was saying that. That's probably that's the thing. And similar with other organisations, the front door sometimes is the difficult bit. Once you're in that front door, you get that really good team working and multi-agency working on the go.
But it's very good to highlight this actually, because it is actually the elephant in the room, I think, isn't it, for all of the services? Yeah. Thank you very much, Will.
Thank you. Claire, your hand's up as well.
Thank you. Not a question as such, more a networking opportunity. So I'm the chair of the Voluntary and Community Sector Reference Group, which is a subgroup of the Safeguarding Children Partnership. I think we've got someone on our mailing list from Women's Aid Leicestershire, but I don't think I've yet met her. So it was just an opportunity for a member of your staff to attend the reference group meetings, whether they want to formally join the subgroup or maybe just to attend as a guest speaker. I think that would be really beneficial, thinking about the promotion of new services, for example. And similarly with, not sure if Zoe's still on the call, Zoe Hill, but we've also got a gap in terms of LGBTQ representation as well on the group. So,
I mean, yeah, we would absolutely welcome it. I think you've potentially got Sophie, my colleague, on your mailing list.
That's right, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. We'd be happy to either to come and guest speak or attend. One of myself or Sophie, I'm sure, could support that. It's not a problem at all. So feel free to get in touch, about how we go forward and move that forward.
Fantastic. I'll pop my contact details in the chat box then, and if yourself and Zoe as well want to contact me, I can send some information across.
We also don't have Helen's, Lisa's and Jane's email addresses. If they could pop their email addresses in the chat, that would be really nice. Thank you.
I think, Zoe, were you going to say something in response? I saw you unmute, that's all, and then...
No, once Claire said that she'd put her details in the chat, I'll drop her a line, but that was just to say, yes, I'd be interested also. Thank you.
Zoe is going to be presenting, I think, on the next Tuesday. You're the presenter from LGBT. Yeah, so we will be hearing more of her next Tuesday.
Lovely.
Actually, we did intend to have a few, slides. Zoe, if you don't mind putting up some slides, if you were intending, so that's the good way as well.
Yeah. Is there any other questions for the team?
Can I ask a question? Do you know this Festival of Learning and the fact that it's all networking and getting things out there? Is there a plan then to share all this information between organisations, like from the people who organised it, Liz and
There,
yeah. Is there a plan then? Now you've done all the work, you're getting to know more about the services in Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. Is there a plan for you to put something out there that you can send out to organisations, collating it all together?
yeah. I literally put Elizabeth under the spotlight there.
Oh, did you? That was rude. Well, I think always our plan is to try and share everything we know with other people. And, you know, like I said, this particular session, it came from Claire. I think Claire should be spotlighted, but no, because what she was saying was that a lot of the safeguarding sort of training that we do often sort of isn't relevant to some of the VCS, and it would be nice to have things that were more relevant, and that is about networking, knowing what else is out there, understanding early help services across the piece, you know, in the local authority and outside the local authority, and what are commissioned. So I think I don't think I had thought, in fairness, of how we should share this afterwards, but even we're only on the second day and it's already becoming abundantly clear to me that that is something that we need to do. We need to keep the links that we've got and try and broaden them and share, because if we've got this little bit of film, just that in somebody's team meeting could make a massive difference, because they then know about the services that you offer, and then if they want to know more, they can get in touch with you. And I think that's just ideal, really. And if you'd be happy for us to share that in different places, or you know, tweak it or cut it or have it done more professionally, or whatever you'd prefer, that's something I think we could be involved with and we'd want to be involved with.
I just think it's one of them things across, like, I've been with Women's Aid a few years now, and I remember I got myself together a contact list of all really important, useful places to refer clients to, because there is such complexities around every case we all deal with, I'm sure, and there's other places, and if we all knew more about the support services in the whole of LLR, it'd just be, let's look at our Bible, if you like.
Yeah. I also, you know, personally, I also wanted to have like specific issues, like locking points that where the VCSs can't get through to the local authorities or the NHS, and since or the police, since these are all our funders, I think maybe we could be a messenger for you to get through to the you know, to the people, or to pinpoint the problems in the communication systems, or the procedures or the processes that goes through when you have to have a referral or get in touch with the, you know, doctor of a certain child that you are concerned about, that, you know, that has domestic violence in their house, or, you know, in a similar situation. So that is why you know, we try to get some statutory representatives out in here, but because of the timing of the session, I think we didn't have that much luck, but we will try to make sure that they have seen this recording. And also, if you would like to, you know, put those in writing, I will personally try to chase it.
Well, I think we should do a report, if you like, from this festival, and to the safeguarding partners. That's what you're saying, highlighting some of the issues, and like you said, barriers and the front door came up yesterday, and I suspect it will be an issue. And I do know, I've heard from other people who say actually going to the front door sometimes is easier than if you've got a allocated social worker. But you've kind of said the other way around, that once you know the allocated social worker, that seems to work okay, but prior to that it can be problematic. So that's quite interesting. So there's different issues, but I think as well you're talking about like a directory almost of what's out there. And we have talked about doing this before, and it can be quite difficult because things change so much, but that doesn't mean to say we shouldn't try to do it again. So yeah, I mean,
could always
possibly
update it, couldn't you? Like do an annual update or something. Mind you, I suppose that's a big job, isn't it? But I just think it'd be a real useful tool for all of the agencies that are involved in safeguarding and supporting vulnerable victims. It'd be great, really.
We had a directory that we put together at the Bridge, so I'll share the link within the chat with the disclaimer that, as is the issue with all sorts of directories, all of the links just need to be checked in terms of being up to date, but it's quite a wealth of information within that, so I'll share that there. And I think in terms of a review and a report, it'd be great to map our networks as well, because that's been a real issue for us as a voluntary and community sector reference group. We've got our mailing list, and then beyond that, we've all got our own individual networks. But trying to map our reach collectively has been a real challenge. So if we can broaden that reach as we understand it from the festival, that would be really fantastic as well.
I think that'd be an amazing outcome. I think is having that sort of mapped sort of environment would be. I think you'd get lots of handshaking and thank yous from a lot of places if that was there.
I think as well, sort of technology's moved on so much so that whereas in the past we would have had a directory, we would have kind of printed it off and then, you know, it had been out of date. You know, actually things are much more fluid now. So we potentially have got an opportunity to do something that we could keep relatively up to date. Of course, you'll always have people who leave and names, but I think as well a lot of agencies use office sort of addresses as opposed to individuals, so that can kind of move some of that, or web addresses or whatever. But yeah, maybe it's something we should think about. I have to talk to the Safeguarding Children's Partnership office managers, but I don't think it's beyond our wit, especially if Claire's already got a sort of document that could kick us off in some sort of way. And then that mapping is about, I mean, we don't have any software that does that kind of thing, but I know the sort of thing you mean, to see if you're here, then you could go here, or but if it's this, you could go here. So and then they could go there. So it's, yeah, that sort of, you know, the breadth of it, isn't it, really? Again, that would be really helpful, I think. And that is part of the problem sometimes, because it's almost, I mean, I do this with training and it drives me mad, you know. So somebody said, oh, you're going to do any training on permanence? And I think we've just done 4 sessions on that last week. You know, how come you didn't know about it? But it's almost the same with services sometimes. You know, well, why didn't you go to the you know, the hospital IDVA, or why didn't you go to the person who deals with domestic abuse for men if it's a man? You know, well, I didn't even know they existed. So it's about, yeah, you know, it's a big responsibility, but we need to raise awareness about these different agencies, services that people can access.
It's a big project, isn't it, for somebody? But it's a real valuable. It would be a real valuable tool for all kinds of agencies in Leicestershire, wouldn't it?
Well, and for the client, victim, patient, whatever you call them at the centre.
Yeah.
You know, that, I mean, that's what we're all, you know, looking at, aren't we? That individual in the middle.
Yeah, okay. And it gives us more scope to support them then.
We have this Leicester City Collaborators networking session also coming. I don't know if it's any interest you, or is it going to solve any of the issues that we spoke here. It is only city. So I'm just gonna put the description here, so if you would like to join that too.
Sean, are you able to download this thing that Claire's put in the chat? And yeah, because I don't know how to do all that, but
it's
could have a look at it.
Just a website link, so it goes through to Charnwood Food Poverty Group website, and then the links.
Yeah, but what about when we come off this meeting?
Yeah, you'll still get as long as you've got the link through to the website, you'll be able to find it under more information and useful organisations.
Okay, Sean will tell me how to do it.
Yeah, I can put them all into an email to you, because now that I got your email, mine won't disappear, because this is the meeting I set up. It won't disappear from my screen. I'll just put them all in an email to you. And also this session on Friday 11 to 12. Let me just read it out. Leicester City Collaborators is an innovative idea to link together different agencies who work with children in Leicester City to develop a program of shadowing interagency working opportunities to support workers' development and understanding of how other agencies work. So this might be maybe of use.
I think it would be useful moving forward beyond the festival as well to really make use of the technology as we now use it. So 15-minute video clips that are sent to us and are accessible. And I think people take on board that information. It's a lot more accessible than reading through. We're bombarded with emails and literature. But if we were able to do that consistently throughout the year, that would be really useful as well in terms of awareness raising.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to suggest to Daria with I know you talked about slides for the next networking session. We can put some slides together about the 3 services and the women's aid services all together, and I'll send those through to you so they can be distributed at, you know, however you're distributing stuff afterwards as well. So yeah, I can pull that together as a bit of a video and get Jane's microphone working, and she can introduce herself. So we can send that through as well afterwards, just so that you've got it printed as well for people to share. So, but yeah, I think, you know, quick videos that people can just watch and see, I think they're really, really positive now, aren't they? And everybody's got a computer now. You don't have a choice. Everybody's
everywhere as well.
Yeah, I mean, it has changed how we work significantly, I think, in a very short space of time. So, I mean, I can remember leaving the office thinking, oh, what am I going to do with my stuff? And yet I don't really miss any of that stuff, if I'm honest. I mean, I wouldn't have said that originally, but you know, I realised that, yeah, you can do so much more flexibly and quickly. So, yeah, we should harness that, I think, as well, and use it to our benefit. I've got a bad signal sign. Sorry if I'm breaking up or anything.
So thank you very much for coming. I mean, you have done a wonderful job, Sian. Thank you very much for mediating everybody. And thank you very much for taking questions. Did Claire or Liz wanted to add anything else?
No, it's been really helpful for me, but yeah, I feel like it's creating something for us to do, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, because it's becoming apparent that there's a need for this sort of information. So, which Claire probably knew anyway, and what she's sort of been saying, but it's really helpful to know that, I think, and I think there are things we can do, and we can move forward with it. That would be my thoughts. I don't know what you think, Claire, and we'd work with Claire because of her role in there.
Yeah, I think the session's been so useful, and we'll get a review meeting date booked in, Liz, and take forward some of those actions.
To be honest, I wanted to add something which I forgot. Let me spotlight myself this time. We have tried to do VCS events before, didn't we, Liz? And then we haven't got much uptake. And then we don't really have much uptake to our training from VCSEs to our training program. So how is it best to get your staff to attend our sessions, which is free most of the time? This is a question for you.
I think from our staff, it's a balance with the service time. Obviously, they're supporting individuals, but you know, send some. You can send some information to me, and I can send it round to our staff and our team. That's absolutely fine. With other organisations, it sounds awful, doesn't it? it's always been you've got to get that one person in the organisation that's got the buy-in or something, and that's then going to get it out there. And I think it's, sorry to say, it's digging down and finding that person in other organisations to give it a go. But we find the same thing. So when we're trying to talk about domestic abuse, for example, until you get that one person that, you know, goes, well, actually, let's do something like that for our team or whatever, you do feel a little bit like you keep going and keep going, don't you?
Yes. And also we have the YouTube channel, which we would like to share some good videos or training that you have, if you allow us to air there, if it will be any value to your services, we would like to offer that. And if you have any training that you outsource, provide to other third parties, we would like to hear about these too. So we will always be, in touch.
Yeah, I think Sean seems to be up for that, so I think we can continue to liaise, and that's it. It's about getting that right person's name on the list, I think, and quite often we don't have that. Claire's a great spreader of information. That's really helpful around the VCS, but it does seem to be that we need to reach out further. So yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
I'm really keen as well to get more representation on the group from smaller voluntary and community sector groups in particular, less formal groups and such like. So if you work with any such like organisation, it would be fantastic to reach out further and have that kind of representation on the group. It is much needed, really.
Because they might say, oh, we need this. And it might actually be something that we could easily provide. It might not be, but it might be. You know, it could be this clip of film that we need to know about these. Oh, here we are. It could be somebody going along to chat to a team meeting, and because it's a small team, everybody's there and everybody hears the same message at the same time. And yeah, if it comes through you, Claire, then it's helpful, isn't it? And because Claire feeds directly back into the safeguarding partnership, as do we, but it's a great route for that to come. Yeah. You're on mute.
Actually, I just thought, because Claire had a good presentation at the opening session. Sorry, not ceremony. I think I should also include that link where we put the recording of your presentation, Claire. It will be useful for this group of people to see it. So I'll include that too.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, I think, has everybody said what they'd like to say? It's been a really helpful session, hasn't it? It's been great.
Really good, thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Welcome. Like I
And
said,
thank you.
Yeah.
Always like to talk.
Thank you so much for bringing your colleagues. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you all.
Lovely to meet everyone.
Thank you, Zoe and Claire, as well.
See you later.
Sean, I've got that other. Are you going to that other meeting, Sean?
I'll give you a call, Lisa.
Okay.
You do work late, ladies.
Bye.
See you
Have a
later.
good evening.
Bye.
Bye bye.